we just get some challenge with these children. The talk would not make them pay attention seriously when you talk. So maybe you give them one and two talk.
No, no, that's wrong. Looks not could never been picture and let's just make sure and get more bad.
Yes, I think sometimes, because if you spare the rod and spoil the child, you, the parents, will suffer in the end. I'm not saying that you must abuse them, but I think that would, enlighten them and let them know how serious you are with them.
Definitely, because I say I do give my son a few lashes because it benefited me when I was young, and it made me the man that I am today, and not just a man, but a man that can actually bring up his son in the right way. So licks do benefit.
I came from a Christian background, and according to the Bible says, "Spare not the rod and spoil the child." So do what is right by scolding them, or giving them a few lashes or something, or disciplining them in whatever area, it will benefit them, because from that alone they will be able to know that what they're doing is wrong, and they can learn from that.
No, I don't think licks benefits no one, especially children.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Step by Step, a parenting program brought to you by the Child Rights Alliance. My name is Asani Tini, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's discussion. The topic this evening is encouraging positive parenting, what parents need to know. Now, how do I discipline my child effectively? This is an issue that every parent has to grapple with. Your method of discipline and parenting style may have a profound and long-term effect on your child. It can affect your relationship with your child, and even how your child relates to others, even into adulthood. So what we're about to discuss this evening is very important. Now, with me in the studio this evening, we have three professionals who have worked extensively with parents over the years. So I'll now give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Sunny, for having me on the program. My name is Benetta Mendonza, and I'm a counselor at the Child Advocacy Center.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sherry Ann Vandiar. I'm the Family Support Services Supervisor with the Child Care and Protection Agency.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sherwin Fraser, STEM specialist, author, and teacher for many years.
I'm glad you can all be with us this evening, and thank you, viewers, for tuning in. So let's get right down to business. What does positive parenting mean to you? What does positive parenting mean to you?
If I should answer that question, basically, I can say that positive parenting is simply guidance that puts children on the right path. And it's also a situation that resists any attempt to be punitive. Because what we need to understand is that in terms of parents serving as good parents or as good models, that can be done in a context where children can be loved, they can be cared, and they can be cherished. So positive parenting has to do with resisting all attempts to be punitive, but at the same time ensuring that children are given the tools that they can grow in a society free from fear, violence, and intimidation.
For me, I wanted to say concerning your introduction that your parenting style and how you parent will have an effect on your children, how they behave as children, and how they will parent their children. So what you do today will have far-reaching effects. So there's no ifs or buts about it. It will have an effect. For me, positive parenting is about building a relationship with your child, one that is based on mutual respect. Positive parenting is about giving guidance that allows children to internalize discipline. So you're at a place where I'm not constantly having to correct the child, but the child understands what is expected of me. And I believe that positive parenting includes a few things. That rules are set, consequences are set, and the children understand that. It also means that parents listen to their children so that they understand their children's thoughts, so that they can correct them where there's misunderstanding. It also means that we have discussions with our children so that we have a mutual, respectful relationship. So that's what I believe positive parenting is all about.
Okay, somehow Ms. Van Dier has speak my thoughts. Nevertheless, for me, it means a lot of things. Firstly, I think it means to show your children love and affection. And in showing them love and affection, it must be demonstrated, not just shown. The first "I love you" should be coming from your parents. The reason being is that you're reinforcing it. So when the man in the street or the woman in the street who probably would have a sexual intention where your child is concerned, when he or she hears "I love you" from them, it doesn't ring a bell, because they would have already heard it from the parents. It's not like, oh wow, where this person tell me "I love you," this is the first time I've heard it. So we need to not just show them love, we need to verbalize them. Verbalize it. Say "I love you" to your children. Say "I love you" to my son. Say "I love you" to my daughter. And in showing affection, it's important that you hug your children. Yeah. You give them a pat on the back. You give them a kiss on the cheek. Also, it involves teaching them good manners. It's important that you teach your children manners, saying good morning, good afternoon. It must not be left up to the teacher, so that when a child is in school, the child is now learning that thing from the teacher. Another thing about positive parenting, it includes talking to the children. Not just talking, listening. Listening is very important. We have grown up in a society whereby we constantly hear our parents talk and we are not allowed to talk back. Somehow talk back is seen as being disrespectful. And it's hard in a time like this whereby children are not being given a voice in terms of, okay, mommy, this is what happened. Allow the children to speak, allow the children to say what is on their mind respectfully. And the reason why I say this, I could share a case whereby this is a child, a lot of things were going on in his home. And as a counselor, sometimes the things hurt the children so much, they don't know how much to relate it to their parents. So what they actually do, Miss Mendonça, you can talk to my parents about this thing concerning me. And when you would have meet with that parent would be surprised, how come this child said this thing to you? I'm his mother and this child have not said this thing to me. But little do they know, as a counselor, we have learned to encourage children to talk and at the same time listening. And when you do that, you give the child an opening in terms of they can come to you with anything and say, Miss Mendonça, this is what is on my mind. And those are some of the things parents should can include in positive parent. Also, the other thing is parents should be what they want their children to be. And in doing that, you be the role model, the positive role model. Because gone are the days when we say, do as I do. Do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work today. It's important that we model what we do. We model what we say. It's important if we're going to tell a child not to smoke, you tell the child not to smoke. Not the child not to smoke. No. You tell a child not to smoke. Smoking is not good for your health. But while you do that, you don't be the one smoking also. Because the child is not going to understand, Mommy, you tell me not to smoke. Daddy, you tell me not to smoke, but yet you're doing it. So it's important when you're giving them rules and guidelines to say, why is it you're doing this thing?
Okay. Now, Mr. Fraser, I heard you use a term non-punitive. Now, for those of our viewers who probably didn't get the opportunity to attend UG, just explain to us what you mean by non-punitive.
Well, I should break that term down, for some of the viewers. But non-punitive simply means you don't have to be aggressive. You do not have to use force. You don't have to use violence. Studies have shown that, good parents can use so many different strategies to get their children to do the same type of activities that any other parents, would get their children to do. So, but non-punitive in simple sense means no force, no aggression, no violence. And to pick up on some of the things that were said earlier in terms of good parenting, what parents need to do is they need to connect with their children, because what we have seen in our society today is that many parents are not able to connect with their children. That is because the views of parents and the views of children are different. And so sometimes there are lots of conflicts in the family because of these divergent and these different views. So positive parenting simply would mean that parents need to connect with their children and they need to build on that relationship, because if as parents can't sustain good and healthy relationships with their children, you find that that leads or open the door to lots of disasters. So what we need to understand, because this whole concept is so wide and there's no set or no hard and fast rule that defines what positive parenting would mean. Many variables come into play. But as I said earlier, some of the key points or key issues raised earlier would be that as parents should connect with their children. And so the absence of a connection opened the door for many, many problems.
Now, I'm putting my self in the shoe of the viewer. Now, you mentioned lack of aggression, no aggression in terms of the parenting approach. And we know in our Caribbean society, in Guyanese society, it's very common for parents to use an aggressive approach when parenting and in the discipline style. So for those parents who would have grown up seeing mommy being aggressive to them, mommy and daddy being aggressive to them, and now they would have adopted the same parenting approach, what can we say to those parents that may be looking at the program now and saying, wait a minute, you're telling me that I can't use a stern voice, I can't use the more aggressive approach? What can we say to them that will comfort them or make them open to this positive parenting?
All right. What I can say in simple sense is that you can be firm yet friendly. And so most parents probably, or some parents might use aggression because there's no alternative. And you see, the absence of alternatives would cause parents to use aggression because maybe they grew up in a family or home where aggression was used as the first choice. But what I can say to parents is that you can be firm but yet friendly. Parents need to rethink their approaches, because in a society today there are many other alternatives and many other ways of dealing with or ways in which parents can deal with their children. So I would say that they can be firm, give instructions, but yet they can be friendly. What parents need to understand also is that they need not to talk down to their children, because some parents believe that if you talk down to their children, that's a way of having them to comply, right? And so what children grow up seeing, they intend to do that, as was mentioned earlier. So it's like a chain reaction where mommy is doing this, daddy is doing this, so when I grow older, that's the strategy I have to adopt. So parents first need to rethink their approach in terms of how they deal with their children. As I said to you, they can be firm but yet friendly. And that comes back to an earlier point which I mentioned in terms of that they need to build relationship. Parents need to be, they need to make their children comfortable so that children can relate to them. And so by relating to their parents, they feel more comfortable. They will not actually go to a friend to disclose information. They will see their friends as their parents. They see their parents as their friends. And so in that way, I think parents can get more out of parenting when they create this type of situation for their children.
Okay, you wanted to raise a point?
I always find it interesting. The same parent that you might ask the question of, do you believe that children should get licks? And they say, yes, I believe they should get licks. Ask them, do you believe that a man should beat a woman? A man should beat his wife? They will tell you no. We are up in arms that there's no justification for a man to hit a woman in the household, but it's okay for us to hit at our children. We are socializing our children into aggressive and violent behavior. Violence always begets violence. This is what you've taught me. So you hit me at home, and it begins at a very early age. The child is small and they go to do something, you hit them on the hand, and then the child hits you back. And then you hit the child and the child hits you back. And it's like a drug. As they grow, that lash doesn't work anymore. So you increase it, or you change the method. Now I employ an instrument, whether it's a belt or a pot spoon or whatever it is, and I share some more licks, but I'm not getting the result I'm hoping for. So by the time they're a teenager, none of that works. Licks is bun and cool, as they say. So now you have a rebellious teenager that is accustomed to being beaten, so I am an aggressive person, all right? It doesn't work. What you're getting when you hit the child is a response to fear. So I retreat because I'm afraid of the licks. I'm not changing the behavior that you don't like. I'm retreating because I don't want to be hit. What we encourage you to do with positive parenting is to relate to your child in a way that they can discipline self, that they understand why a behavior is inappropriate, so that they understand why I should not be doing this. So I don't have to always be cautioning you, always be talking to you about the same thing, because I understand why I should not be doing this. You know, parents believe that there are no alternatives. That's why, like my colleague said, if you just want to do some research, we spend so much time on Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram looking at pictures and commenting. If you take a few minutes out of that time and do some research on parenting, you can learn so much. Everything is out there. All your alternatives to physical and not discipline, because hitting at a child is not discipline. It is punishment. It is meant to hurt. There's a difference. Discipline is for the child. It is meant to teach the child something. Punishment is all about you, the parent. It means that I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm full of this aggressive energy, and I have to be justified because you've done me wrong. You've embarrassed me in some way, and I'm upset, and I got to get out this aggression, and I beat you. And when I'm done and my energy is released, I feel good. That is not okay. Punishment is about the parent. Discipline is about the child. There's a difference, and we don't have to hit our children to discipline them. There are lots of other ways to do it. So I believe in positive parenting, and parents that truly want to have that relationship with their child that is positive, that will create the rounded individual that we're sending into society, will make the effort, will take the time to put other measures in place so they don't have to hit at their children and create that vicious cycle of abuse.
So I'm hearing a number of things coming out from positive parenting. I'm hearing mutual respect, I'm hearing guidance, and also communication. And as Ms. Mendonza touched on, love. Love seems to be the motivating factor behind positive parenting. But I especially like the point of modeling. Be the change that you would like to see. Because as you would have mentioned, do as I say and not as I do. Children, they're catching on easily, and that's not an effective approach. So positive parenting, there's I'm sure it's a groundbreaking concept for a lot of parents, but if the old way wasn't working that effectively, maybe we need to try some new things. So we're going to continue with our discussion, but we're first going to go to a very brief break. So don't touch that dial. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Very sad. I feel very sad.
I feel sad from not doing the right things.
I feel sad and unhappy when I get leaks.
Sad and angry. Bad for doing the wrong things.
I feel bad because I get licks for a reason.
I feel sad and hurt, but I also know that my parents are trying to protect me and make sure that I get things right.
Bad because I did the wrong thing.
I feel sad when I receive licks.
I feel sad because I didn't do the right thing that I supposed to do.
I feel bad because I did the wrong thing.
Angry and sad at the same time.
Bad.
Sad. Bad because it hurts my feelings.
Welcome back to Step by Step, a parenting program brought to you by the Child Rights Alliance. If you're now joining us, the topic this evening is encouraging positive parenting, what parents need to know. Now, you'd have just seen a video with children giving their views on how they felt when they received licks. And in some of the cases, they said they felt bad and sad. But in other cases, in other instances, you heard the children justifying the reason they got this punishment that made them feel bad. Now, our next question is, what can you as a parent do to empower children? What can parents do using the positive parenting approach to empower children?
What I can say, if I should start with that, in response to that question, we first need to give children a voice, right? And by giving children a voice, we will get to know what is inside of them, right? Because children suffer, sometimes they suffer in silence, and more so if they are given lashes or punishment is being meted out to them, you find that they will retreat, as my colleague said. And you find for days they might not be saying anything. You probably see a change in their behavior, right, which is a signal or a red flag. But because some parents might not know what to do, they just overlook that. So by giving children a voice, we tend to know what is inside of them, and in that way we can understand them. Understanding children would enable children to develop, and so that is one way in which we can empower them. Secondly, we can help them to empower them by respecting their views, their ideas. Many times children are criticized in the home. They come up with an idea or suggestion, and that is easily shut down, because some parents might believe that the idea makes no sense, and so they are heavily criticized. We're doing no good when that approach is taken. If we want to empower children, we need to listen to their ideas. We need to understand their thoughts, understand their feelings, understand their desire, and we also need to support them. Support is so important and critical, and I think many times we underestimate, the role of support in the lives of children. So in a nutshell, if parents can work on those things, I think we will empower them greatly.
Okay. Okay. All children are born with an ability within them to do greatness. However, it must be nurtured. And in nurturing it, you must recognize the potential that they have, the skills, the talents, and at the same time, we need to put them into that field that we know that they will function in, and at the same time, they will be able to be effective, because all of them are unique. All of them are not going to be doctors and lawyers. And the sooner we recognize that this one has the ability to do this, the other one has the ability to do this, it will be easy in terms of when we're talking about empowering them. Secondly, it also starts with self-confidence. When we build their self-confidence, they will have the confidence to do whatever it is they put their mind to do. That means they were not limiting themselves. They already have the self-confidence that they can do this, they can do that, all because they have the parents supporting them in whatever area they're equipped to function in.
I want to go back to the video that we watched, and the children saying that how they felt when they got licks. They felt sad and they felt bad. I didn't hear any child say that this was what I did wrong and I was supposed to do this instead. I got licks, but did I learn the lesson I was supposed to learn? Compare that with having a conversation with a child, where you will have the opportunity to say, honey, this is not acceptable behavior. This is what we should do instead, and this is why we should do this. Children are not perfect. We are not perfect as adults. Children should be allowed to make mistakes, and when we have conversations with them about their behavior, we're able to change it. When I beat you, I hurt you, I abuse you, and you even went on to say that, the children are justifying why they got licks. Isn't that what adults do when they're abused? Justify why the abuser did it. Oh, I made him angry, and I didn't do this, and I should have cooked the food, and it had too much salt, and I did this. And so they justified why they were beaten. It's the same thing that happens because it is all abuse, and we don't want to abuse our children. But how do we empower our children? I agree with my colleagues. We need to begin by mirroring what it is that we want our children to be. What that means is we need to tell them that they're creative, you're awesome, you are so talented, you know, so the child believes and internalizes that I am awesome, I am so talented, I am creative, I can do anything. What you say and information that you give to your children, that is what they receive, that's what they internalize. That's why we don't speak down to our children. That's why we don't belittle our children, because that is what they will internalize. The other thing is that we should encourage them. You can do it. I want to fly a plane. Go for it. I want to ride the bicycle without the training wheels. Go for it. You know, give them that encouragement. I am your greatest cheerleader. I am in the crowd. I'm cheering you on. You could do anything. That's how we empower our children to be great, by helping them to understand that mommy and daddy, we are here for you. Even if you do it and you don't get it right the first time, you can always try again and you can get this thing right. Be your children's biggest cheerleaders. That's how you encourage them, and mirror what it is that you want them to be, and you will have empowered children, children that understand it. Here what happened, whatever the task is, I can put my mind to it and I'm going to get this thing done. And they take that throughout their lives into adulthood. It becomes a way of life. So don't think that the way that we treat with our children is for the moment. It has far-reaching effects, like we said in the beginning. You are setting the path for who your child is going to be right from the very beginning. So we have to be very careful what we put in, because that's exactly what we're going to get out.
Okay, I like the point that was raised about giving children a voice, because we have this saying in Guyana, probably in the Caribbean, children should be seen
not heard.
and not heard. But you're coming up with a totally different concept. Give them a voice. Now, be practical with the viewers, and how can parents go about giving their children a voice?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of giving them a voice, what parents need to understand is that first they need to listen to their children, right? That's the first voice, because what I've seen and what, you know, the studies have shown is that many times children want to contribute, they want to say things, but that opportunity is never present, because every time they open their mouth to say, they're criticized, they're shunned upon, you know, all sorts of remarks are made to them. And so in that way, we can never promote that cohesive or that conducive environment for children to be empowered. So by listening to our children, we give them the first voice. Secondly, we guide them. They might be saying, they might be making statements or saying things that sometimes might not add up or might not at all times be relevant. But as parents, parents have that civic duty and responsibility to guide their children. And in guiding, providing guidance, I think they'll be able to empower them also. What parents need to understand, thirdly, is that when you give children a voice, it doesn't mean the children become disrespectful or disobedient, right? But in a free society, a free world where children have rights and responsibilities just like adults, right? We also need to get children to be responsible. So they do something, there are always consequences for, you know, behaviors and actions and so on. And so we need to get our children to understand that every bad behavior or bad action has a consequence. And so we need to teach them, you know, what is right. In that way, we promoted not just the voice in them, but we're promoting confidence, as was mentioned earlier. We're building self-esteem. We're building so many other characteristics. In that way, we're giving them the voice. Only last Friday, 2 students made a presentation in Parliament who are Rights of the Child ambassadors. And so those students had a voice, right? They have a voice and they want their voice to be heard. I think they made that, you know, statement to the parliamentarians so parliamentarians can understand, you know, the voices of children. And I think that was a very good opportunity where parliamentarians listen to the voices of those 2 students, one from St. Rose's and one from President's College that presented last week. So giving children a voice, we need to understand that the voice is not just in the home, but in school and in the community, because what is happening in our society today is that persons talk down to each other. And so we have a society where the teacher might talk down to the student talk down to his or her colleague, right? Mommy talks down to child, father talks down to son. And so we have that situation where if that is allowed to continue, no voice can be, obtained from children. So as I mentioned earlier, we give them a voice by first listening to them, respecting their views, guiding them through the process, and even working with them. In that way, we're helping our children and giving them even greater voices.
The reason I wanted to stress on that point, I look at what's going on today, and it seems as though this concept of children being seen and not heard, it's affecting them. Now, in the news right now, we have a situation where there are allegations of children who were sexually molested or groomed, and it was going on for years. However, no one said anything. Now, when I heard of these things, I was wondering, where are the parents? Are they aware of what is going on? So, Ms. Mendonza, you working in the Child Advocacy Center, I guess you can better shed light on the importance of giving children a voice, because you may have had worked with children who did not say anything. They were being abused, but they did not say anything because they were taught, they were socialized to not say anything.
Okay, there could have been many reasons. For instance, it could be probably something would have happened way back then, and probably what the mother or the father probably did is constantly physically abuse the child. So in an event like that, the child don't feel comfortable or confident enough to go to my parents and say, this is what has happened to me, or this is what this person has done to me, especially if there wasn't any form of communication, because that is one of the things that is lacking these days. There are no communication. And then there's also the issue whereby you find probably there is the probably trust, whereby the parent wouldn't have believed the child. So the abuse continues to go on because the child doesn't feel comfortable enough to go and talk to mommy or daddy. Especially if the case they didn't believe the first time. They may call you a liar. So in the event you keep it to yourself. So you go to nobody and say anything, and the abuse continue to goes on.
Sometimes, oftentimes, when violence is perpetrated against children, the child is threatened and told that what is happening here is your fault. And so the child doesn't tell. What is further upsetting is that when I tell, persons that are supposed to believe me don't believe me. Or they say to me, it's my fault. I should have known better. I should have done differently. And I'm the child. No. When abuse is perpetrated against the child, it is the abuser's fault. Always, always the abuser's fault. Never the child's fault. I'm a child. And you're an adult. You're the one that is supposed to know better. So children are placed in a particular spot where, how do I tell? Will I be believed? We spend a lot of time, Child Protection Agency, ChildLink, and or NGOs, brothers and sisters, putting information into the public arena that children should be allowed to say when something has happened to them. Please tell somebody. We advocate with children. Tell, always. We have a tell scheme. And when they do, you tell me it's my fault. You're not helping us. You need to help us. Adults need to understand that we are the protectors of children. We are here to assist them, to guide them, to protect them until adulthood. And as parents, way past that. So when children express to us that they've been abused in some way, shape, or form, your first position is to believe them. and to help them to understand, I believe you and I will help you. There's no other position to take. All right? And we need to understand that as a society. So why children don't tell? Sometimes they're threatened. Sometimes they don't know who to tell. Sometimes they're afraid of the response that they're going to get. Don't be that person.
Or it can be a case whereby the perpetrator would have been the breadwinner for the home, and he probably threatened the child, okay, if you tell mommy, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. All of these things are going to be stripped from you, and you're not going to get these things anymore.
Right. So the child feels responsible.
Exactly. So if the child, like these things that you used to be doing for this child, and the child realizes that, okay, if I tell, I'm not going to be having these things anymore. The child is not going to say anything, and like my colleagues say, once they're threatened and all these things going on, and then they make you feel guilty, you're not going to say anything.
Okay, so
what I can say, just to add a bit to that, is that all that my colleagues mentioned, those are risk factors. And those factors actually stifle the voices
Very much so.
of children. So, because we live in a society where the risk factors, you need to understand that women and children are the two most vulnerable groups, according to studies conducted by UNICEF and other UN agencies. Women and children are the two most vulnerable groups, and because these factors are risk factors, they actually stifle the voices. So when these things happen, you don't get children coming out to say anything, or because of fear, because of intimidation, for the threats, and then sometimes the system that these children are nurtured in do not actually give support, right, for them to have their voices being heard and for solutions and interventions to effectively take its course.
You know, a practical way we can begin in helping our children to voice their opinions and express themselves with simple things. What do you want to eat today? What should mommy cook today? What extracurricular activity you want to be in? You want to be in karate, you want to do dancing, you want to play cricket, what do you want to do? What you want to wear today? And so on. You're beginning by giving children choices. You are a part of this household, your opinion matters. So I seek out your opinion, thus giving the child a voice. So I'm able to understand from the beginning, from a very young age, that my opinion matters. It's okay for me to have an opinion, but not only so that the child can say, I would like to have this, but actually put it into play. So the child knows that, oh, she's just asking me for asking me sake, but it has weight. What I say has weight in my family. So I will not be afraid to say to mommy or daddy when something bad happens, this is what has happened to me, because I have a voice in my household. So we begin by doing very little things.
Okay, so we're saying that positive parenting, it deals with a lot of things, but one of the things that we're seeing is communication and giving that child a voice, placing value on the opinion of the child. So we're going to take another short break. We'll be back. Please stay with us.
No. No. Most of the times.
So let them get things right, yes, but not like badly.
I won't beat it. They don't have no reason that I should beat my child.
Yes. Yes, I would beat them, but not for stupid things.
Not really.
Yes, for the wrong things, to make them do it the right way.
Not really. Not really.
Yes, but not all the times.
Yes.
Mostly times.
Welcome back to Step by Step, a parenting program brought to you by the Child Rights Alliance. Tonight we're looking at encouraging positive parenting, what parents need to know. Now, the concept of positive parenting differs from what we have been accustomed to, that tough parenting. So a lot of persons may be a bit reluctant to adopt positive parenting because they're thinking, okay, I may not have that control and my children may end up soft. They need that toughness, that Caribbean toughness. And a lot of parents also believe that, okay, you know, we don't like these new American ways. Look at what is going on in America. We don't want that here. So we would have seen videos on YouTube of children in America behaving maybe in a rebellious or a stubborn way. So how do we address this? How should parents deal with rebellious, stubborn, and negative behaviors?
I'm thinking if we're dealing with the stubborn and rebellious behavior now and we're accustomed to employing aggression and violence, then something is not adding up. It means that our aggression and our method that we're using right now is leading to that type of behavior. So obviously it's not working. I really like our videos tonight. You know, we were asking the children, would you beat your child? And the majority of them said no. Some said yes, which speaks to that perpetuation, to that vicious cycle. We have already socialized them into aggression. And I wish we could take that back, but a lot of times we can't. You know, we've gone past that place where we can change. But hopefully tonight with all this new information that we're giving, we're going to make some headway with that. But what do we do when we want to change aggressive behavior? We have to begin by setting rules, consequences, limitations for our children, and making our children accountable. However, we can't make them accountable when they don't know what to expect or what it is that you really want. All right? So our rules have to be clear. These are the acceptable behaviors for this household. These are the unacceptable behaviors for this household. These are the consequences when we do things that are wrong. And then you have a conversation with your child about this. What do you think? Set the consequences with the child. So the child isn't surprised that when we break the rule, that this is what happens, because you set that consequence. It wasn't me, it was you, the child, that did it. So I already know what's coming as a child. So we need to keep our children accountable for their behavior. It teaches them to manage their emotions, manage their time, and how we behave with adults, with children of our own age. So we need to keep them accountable. All right? Another thing that we can do, don't react. Children will do things that we don't like. And our first response is usually, I'm upset, I'm mad, and so I hit out at you. Take a moment, take a breather, step back. It gives you time to deal with your emotions. It gives the child time to think about what it is that they did, why they did it. It also teaches them again how to manage their emotions. Think about the lesson that you're teaching. The child does something wrong, and I'm immediately in a rage. I grab whatever it is that's closest to my hand, reach, and I give the child a few blows or whatever it is. And while I'm doing that, I'm at 100 at the top of my lungs, and I'm screaming and I'm saying all manner of things that I probably will regret later on. But the child is internalizing that. I've taught a lesson that when I'm upset, it's okay for me to beat somebody up. It's okay for me to say derogatory things, and it doesn't matter to me how the other person feels. That's the lesson you have taught. Compare that with if I take a breather, I'm upset, and I can't deal with this right now because I'm going to say things that I don't want to say, and I might do something that I don't want to do. I will take a breather, and I will deal with this later on. And then you come back, and you say to the child, this is unacceptable behavior because I'm no longer in that place where I'm excessively angry. The child too has had an opportunity to relax, and so we can have a conversation about what it is that went wrong. We don't want to react always to what is happening. And when we set rules or when we're dealing with situations, should not be when something has gone wrong. This should be done from way before, so a child knows what to expect, understands what is expected of them. So these are some of the little things that we can do. There's a whole lot more. My colleagues, I'm sure, will mention some others.
Okay. In addition to what Fania would have said, there are some other underlying factors that could be going on with the child. Yes. Is why the child is rebellious. So not every time we quick to run for the cane or administer some lashes. If I may share a case, I know of this particular incident. This child was rebellious in school. And it so happened one time he came to my office. This headmaster brought him to my office. The time I was a counselor in the school. And I was like, how come are you here? He said, Miss, this child had did me something before, and the first time he did it, I didn't do anything to him. I said, did you complain? He said, no. I said, well, complaining is always the first thing you need to do. Anyhow, I said, what brought you here? And he said, well, the child did this thing to me again. So you retaliated, and all you retaliated. The teacher didn't know of the first incident. The teacher just knew of the second. So it so happened, he came to the office and he was expelled from school. Wow. So he was crying. I said, why are you crying? He said, Miss, I can't go. My mom is going to beat me. And I said, you sure? He said, yes. And then he broke down in tears. And I said, I said, why are you crying? He said, Miss, my mommy would call me names. I don't know if I could mention these names like jackass and the different names, but the names are not names that you will like anyone to call you. And I said, would you like me to call your parent and talk to your parent? He said, yes, mate. I immediately called that parent, and when that parent came into my office, I told her exactly what the child related to me. She was shocked. She said, I never knew this is how my child felt. Wow. Because he had said to me, Miss, my mom would pick up anything and lash me. Anything comes to her hands, I would get it. Even to the sister would be calling the names. And when I told her that, she herself, she said, I didn't know this is what my son was going through. I didn't know he was in so much pain. And it so happened that he didn't get any licks that day because I did some educating in terms of things that she should do, in terms of alternatives. Not everything is the cane. And it so happened I made some home visit and our behavior has changed, and to make sure that it's not just hearsay or it's not just she's saying that. I asked the child, and the child said, yeah, my mom has changed indeed. So in dealing with rebelliousness, it's not every time it's a cane. It's just simply talking and listening to this child. Sometimes all this child wants is for you to listen, for his voice to be heard. And those are some of the things we need to do.
And I mentioned how you parent, how you discipline, it can affect the child. Now look at this. The parent was verbally abusive and even physically abusive to the child. And because of that, or that was a major contributing factor in the child acting out aggression towards others. And look at the consequence. The child was expelled from school.
Yeah, if I should add to what Ms. Mendonza said earlier, many times when we see negative behaviors, from children, it's as a result that they need attention. They might be seeking attention, and sometimes we don't even know. Some teachers don't even know that those students are suffering, and so they need it. So the behavior is as a result to draw teachers and parents' attention to the fact that something is happening to those children. And so some teachers will probably use force to correct, but force will not work. Once you realize that, as parents, you realize that your child or children are acting differently, you need to find out what is happening. You need to have dialogue with your children. Put them to sit and talk with. Many parents sometimes are afraid to have, types of conversation with their children because they believe that if they develop this friendly, relationship with their children, children might become, but that's not the case. As I said earlier in my presentation, we can be firm yet friendly. What I want to say to parents is that rebellious behavior, these things don't happen overnight, right? There are stages, and so these things develop over time until it reaches a stage where perhaps some parents cannot no longer control that type of behavior, even within the school system. But as I said earlier, because children need attention, they will act out these different types of behavior. It is for adults and for teachers and responsible persons to understand that once you see these behaviors occurring, you need to take stock. You need to talk with those children. You need to bring them to a place where they can understand that there are consequences for their action. So you also need to try to model positive behaviors, and in so doing, you reward positive behavior. So you give reinforcement, because what you find is that not many persons have the reward system, but good parents would understand and would know that you reward children for the thing, and in so doing, you get more out of them when you can reward them, when you can give incentives. So incentive schemes should be set up. Sometimes you have very rebellious children in school, but you make those same students leaders of groups. You have group ties, you make them leaders, and you would be surprised to see that there's a change of behavior, right? Because you don't just shut them down, put them aside. The fact that they are looking for attention, teachers need to become cognizant and understand that you can turn all these negative behaviors into positive if you know how to deal with those students, right? So as I said, in a nutshell, what parents need, and good parents, as a good parent, because if you want to develop a good parenting program, you first need to understand the needs of your child or children. Look at the issues that they're suffering from, and you work around that. Give them roles, give them responsibilities, provide incentives, and in so doing, you will see a shift. Obviously, it wouldn't happen overnight, but it has to be a process that would be developed between parents and children.
Ms. Mendonça,
Okay, in addition to what my colleague just said, verbal abuse should not be taken lightly. Gone are the days when we say words are win, but words are fall, because it's some of those same words that was said to that child by his parent. He internalized it and then he act out. Because if you're going to call a child a fool or a jackass, that's exactly how he's going to behave. So can you imagine you as a parent calling that child those names? Then you have the man in the street. Then you probably have the children in the class doing that. What will become of that child? Eventually he's going to act the way you're calling him.
Well, it seems as though positive parenting, if it is not practiced, it makes the work of the teacher that much more difficult. Because in the case that you brought up, the teacher was not aware of what was going on in the child's life. The teacher probably did not see the need to delve deeper into the issue. And a teacher's job is first and foremost to deliver the curriculum. And it's a bit unfair when they have to deal with those additional issues. But it's very important, parents, that we have that open line of communication, because imagine the mother she said, I never knew that's how my child felt. She didn't know. So it's important that we have that communication and allow our children to talk to us so that we can hear and we can understand what is going on in their life and how they're feeling. Now, we're coming down to the end, but I just want us to answer this question quickly. How can parents work towards reaching their full potential in positive parenting?
I believe first we have to change the way we think. We can't go on thinking that I got to beat them. I had a parent said to me, they got to get licks. And the way it came over was like, it doesn't matter if the child did something or the child didn't do something, that the child got to get some licks in order for them to pass over into whatever other age of their life. They got to get some licks. They don't have to get licks. We have to change our thinking about discipline and how we parent our children. That's our first step. If we want to positively parent our children, we have to change our mindset that we're going to take a different approach, we're going to try something new, and the old ways are not working, and so we have to release that and invite new information. So I believe that's our first step, changing our way of thinking. And secondly, I like to say to parents, you are your children's first teacher. You are their idol. What you do is what they will do. You are their model. So if you want your child to behave in a particular way, like my colleague said, you have to behave that way. If you don't want them to curse, then you can't curse. If you don't want them to smoke, then you can't smoke. We cannot live our lives in front of our children in one way and then expect them to behave differently. It's not going to happen. This do as I say and not as I do and all these things, it doesn't happen. It has never worked. It has never worked, and it will not work now. So be who you want your children to be. Live your life in a way that is a positive thing that your children can emulate. It's not going to turn around in any other way. You're the first person that they see behaving in a particular way because you're in the household. So you first have to change your behavior.
Okay, well, we're running out of time. So I just want to give everyone just real quickly your final thoughts. 30 seconds or less.
What I can say in closing, what I can say is that both parents and teachers have a duty of care towards their children, and so that duty of care is very, very important. parents need to not to abdicate their responsibility towards their children, and the same goes for teachers. In closing, what I would say briefly is that parents can get much out of this, but they need to understand that what they should be doing is that they should be supporting their children, right? And they need to do things that will be in the best interest of their children. So as my colleague said, you can't want to do something, you live your life in front of your children one way and then do something, because obviously those are the same behaviors that children will emulate a few years down the road.
Okay, as for me, as my colleague said, the parents is the first teachers the children see. So it's important they live up to that standard. Secondly, I was continue to say this, be the kind of person you want your children to be. Be the role model to them so that they will be able to mimic your positive behavior, not the negative ones.
Always come from a place of love. Focus on the good things that the child does. When the child hears from you, shouldn't always be about what they did wrong. Let that be the least. Talk to the child about what they did right and that you love them.
I understand. In closing, I want parents to understand that they should not forget the religious aspect of things, because sometimes we parent, our children, and we forget that we need to keep God on our side. We need to get children exposed to the religious teaching, because that can do very lot, and it can help to change our society in general.
Another thing to know, we close, and another thing, we need to compliment our children.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they are not complimented, so we need to constantly be doing that.
All right, positive discipline most likely won't produce change overnight. It's not about getting fast results. It's about teaching behavior that parents want their children to emulate. It will take longer to see real changes because children sometimes learn by repetition. But when that change happens, it will be very rewarding and the benefits will last a lifetime. So thank you so much for being with us. We hope something that we shared will positively impact you. Be sure to join us next time. Have a wonderful remainder of the evening.